بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Okay, so today we are going to speak about art and its rulings in Islam. We are not going to be speaking about art as a profession, but we will cover art from all aspects, starting from painting to graphic designing to video to photos to plays to everything that can come under the art category. And we will see the ruling of Islam in each of this. Art in Arabic is called fan. Fan is art. In Arabic, the word fan means types, anwa. Fanan of a tree is the branch of a tree. That's why it's branches. Some voices are called fan, which is art, like the voices of people who are giving nasheed or the voices of some instruments. They are all called fan. So what is art? The definition of art is what the eye likes to see or the ear likes to hear. So just there is an Arabic word called fannan, and whoever is an Arab will recognize this word. Fannan usually is referred to an artist, but in the grammatic Arabic language, it's actually the donkey that screams with his voice, especially related to zebra. So usually calling someone as a fannan, which is an artist in Arabic, is a curse. It's not actually a compliment. So some people, although it's coming from the word fan, which is an art. Art is creative manifestations of human feelings. So people, when they have these feelings, they start to have these creative manifestations, and these are arts. Whatever is on the fitrah and no prohibition was mentioned for it, everything in art is permissible if it's on the fitrah and there is no prohibition that is mentioned in Islam. And we will speak about all the details of the different branches of art. We start with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَمِيلٌ يُحِبُّ الْجَمَالِ. Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. So this is art. It's part of the love of the beauty. Beauty opens the soul to receive information. Usually, if you are hearing someone who is beautiful, tidy, organized, that will open up the mind actually to receive the information better than someone who did not brush his hair, who did not wear properly, and so on. Tidy and beautiful writing encourages reading. Raising the masjid in beautiful way encourages people going to the masjid, and so on. Always beauty encourages people to engage. So beauty is part of the art. So the art is not something haram, or it's not something not permissible. But there are some points in art that we need to look after, but it's all coming from the major aspect of beauty, that Allah Azza wa Jal loves beauty. Beauty does not contradict zuhd. Zuhd is detachment from dunya. Someone is zahid, or someone is not really attached to this dunya. That does not contradict beauty. or that does not contradict art and being really tidy and clean. Someone can be actually zahid, meaning that detached from this dunya, but his clothes are clean, tidy, he's always brushing his hair, he's putting perfume, he's having a clean car, a good car, beautiful car. Everything is clean and tidy. That does not contradict zuhd or detachment from dunya. It has been mentioned that the worst money you spend is what you put in the dirt by the companions, which is what you put in building. This is the worst money that you have. And that has been explained that if you are building something that you are not living in, that's the worst money that you are spending.
Just to clarify,
yes. So some people, they will start, for example, if I want to build a house to live in, so no problems. I will beautify the house. The house is beautiful. I don't have some waste anywhere in the house. Just beautiful, clean and tidy house, no problems. This saying from the companion is related to if I am building things that I'm not going to use. Like out of, for example, I'm sitting there, I have a house, I have a house that I'm living in, but I have a space there. Okay, let me build a granny flat over there. What are you going to use it for?
Build like a 5-bedroom house that it's only you and your
wife. Or something like this. So this is exactly what we mean. Beautifying what you live in is permissible so long as you are not wasting money. So you can beautify without waste. Sometimes the art will be in the form of amusing people and joking with them. So we have lots of artists who go and just do some funny talks to amuse people, to make them laugh. Is this permissible or not permissible? If it is not a lie and has a purpose, such as for the purpose of relieving some stress, then no problem. So the purpose does not mean always to be serious purpose. It can be just to relieve stress from people, so long as it's not a lie. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ did lots of jokes in his life. And the woman that came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him to carry her with them going for migration or going for somewhere traveling, he said to her, I will carry you on a baby camel. So she came to him and she said, how can a baby camel carry someone like me? He said, isn't every camel is a baby camel? Because the camel is born and once he was a baby camel, so that's how he is. And then she said to him, okay, make dua for me that I enter Jannah. He said to her, an old woman will not enter Jannah. So she came crying, and the Prophet ﷺ came back to her and said to her that everyone will go back to the early age at the 30th, so at the youth age. So what we mean here, even his jokes were actually not lies. So he was joking with people and with an old woman, so no problems. So relieving some stress from people, there is no problem of joking, and that makes an art, so long as he is not lying. Art for the sake of art is permissible. Someone who is just loving this beauty, loving to paint nature or paint whatever, and we will come to painting these photos and all of these question marks that come to painting. So someone, art for the sake of art is permissible. What do we mean by permissible? Permissible meaning that the person will not take reward and will not be punished. If the art has no actual intention behind it, it's called permissible. It's just for the sake of art. So that's permissible, and nobody will be rewarded or punished. So long as he did not waste time or money or contradicted rules of Islam. So someone who engaged in a paint or something and he missed a prayer, that's haram. Now art at that stage becomes haram because it actually wasted an obligation. So long as the person who is engaged in the art is fulfilling all of his duties and obligations in Islam, then there is no harm in art, and art is permissible in that. Islamic art as a terminology can be accepted, although sometimes it has some confusion. Looking at some historical buildings with the Islamic architects, such as Turkey or Baghdad, is something the Muslims are proud to have that art. So when we look at all of these historical buildings, go to Spain, go to Turkey, go to Baghdad, go to many places around the world, all of these architects are really standing until now from maybe thousands of years ago. So that's something that we can say that we have a history of beauty, of art in the Islamic history. Islamic art, we mean by it, is whatever following the orders of Islam. That's what we mean by Islamic art. So any art that is not contradicting Islam, you can call it or classify it as an Islamic art, because it does not break any of the laws of Islam. You can call it that. Nowadays, we'll find lots of art products under the name of Islam, but are not abide with the law of Islam. And they will say this is an Islamic art. Who can remind us with some examples of some people call it Islamic art and it's not abide by Islamic laws? Anyone? Let's leave the instruments aside, because we'll have a separate discussion about the instruments and the
paintings of Islamic hijab, like hijabi women that are paintings or murals, but
yeah, for example, that might be considered. For example, under the name of Islamic art, I've seen some women who are covered, hijabis, who are doing some nasheeds and having people around her. She's dancing, they are dancing, and the wording of the nasheed are wordings that are acceptable in a way in Islam. But she is dancing, the people around her, women are dancing, and they are calling that Islamic art. So this is not actually abiding by the Islamic law. So unfortunately, this is not acceptable as an Islamic art. Let's start with the first one. Hand painting and computer designing, graphic designing. Okay? So this is art. We will start. Hand painting of something with soul, with the same size of the creature, is not permissible under conditions. Okay? In general, look at the word with the same size. So same size of the creature, we are speaking about huge painting. So if someone is painting something that is the same size of the person and hanging it on the wall, that goes under the hadith that we will speak about, inshallah, now. So for now, put it in your mind that painting something that has a soul fully, the creature fully, in the same size of that person or that creature is not permissible. Okay? If the person is looking at it as if he is looking at a human or a creature in a big photo, then it is not permissible. But if the person is looking at it as a small, then it is permissible. And we will look at the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in here. Yes.
What about, like, for example, sometimes in promotional advertising, say, for example, you're a famous sports star. They take a photo of you standing with a product, and then they print it on a cardboard full size. So when you walk into the sports shop, it has you standing and they put the ball in your hand.
We will come to it. It's nothing at all, because you are not painting anything. You are not creating anything. It's just like you are looking at the mirror.
Okay.
And the Prophet ﷺ used to have a mirror he used to look at. So you are not creating something new. So that photo of a human being with the full size is not a problem so long as it's not being respected. We will look at this and we'll come to the conditions. Aisha reported that Jibreel alayhi salam made a promise with Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam to come at a defined hour. That hour came, but he did not visit him. So Jibreel did not visit the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, although Jibreel promised the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam to visit him at that hour. And there was in his hand, in the hand of the Prophet ﷺ, a staff. He threw it from his hand and said, "Never has Allah or His messengers, angels, ever broken their promise." Then he cast a glance and by chance found a puppy under his coat and said, "Aisha, when did this dog enter here?" She said, "By Allah, I don't know." He then commanded and it was turned out. Then Jibreel came and Allah's Messenger ﷺ said to him, "You promised me and I waited for you, but you did not come." Whereupon he said, "It was the dog in your house which prevented me to come. And for we angels do not enter a house in which there is a dog or a picture." So this hadith is in the Sahihain, in Bukhari and Muslim, and it has been authentic that there is no house that contains a dog that the angels will enter. So we cannot actually allow the dogs to live inside our houses for no reasons. That's number one. And we are going to speak about the picture here and the incident of the Prophet ﷺ entering where there was a picture. And we will define what's the meaning of a picture. So the prohibition here for the picture is for painting something and hang on the wall. So someone painted a creature with its full size and he liked it, put it on the wall, respected it. Every time he looks at it, that's the prohibition. And again, we will put the conditions for that. If the paint is not hanged and it is small, then it's permissible. So coming to kids, painting their moms and fathers or whatever, then this is actually not the actual size of the human being. And it's not respected. And it's not for any other purpose apart from just art, and the kids are doing some stuff like this.
Even if it's hanged like on the fridge or something?
Even if it's on the fridge, on something, we'll come to this. Abu Talha, the companion of Allah's Messenger ﷺ, reported Allah's Messenger ﷺ having said, "Verily, angels do not enter the house in which there is a picture, but Bushr reported, Zayd fell ill and we went to inquire after his health and found that there was hanging at his door a curtain with a picture on it. I said to Ubaidillah, who had been under the patronage of Maymuna, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, did not Zayd himself inform us before about Prophet ﷺ commanding pertaining to the pictures? Whereupon Ubaidillah said, did you not hear when he said, except the print on the cloth? So this is an authentic hadith as well. This print on the cloth, it meant for some small prints on clothes that are permanent. This hadith is authentic, and either it's in Muslim or in both Bukhari and Muslim. So meaning that the Prophet ﷺ actually allowed a print on a cloth and for a full photo. And we will come actually to Ibn Abbas and other as well companions who used to have some utensils with full birds on them and so on, and they used to use them. So we'll come to this. But remember this rule, which is except the prints on the cloth. And when the wording in Arabic is رقم في قماش. رقم meaning that it's something like a small thing within that big cloth. Yes.
So, like for example, if you have the Puma logo and the Puma house got like it's no problem.
This comes under this hadith.
And secondly, what about if you have a T-shirt and it's got the photo of, like, for example, Muhammad Ali, the boxer? It's a proper photo.
Now we are going to speak about if it is a photo, an actual photo of him, and you are not putting it out of just admiring or respecting or giving him there is no issues, because number one, it's not the same size of the actual person. Number two, it's a photo. It's not painted. We will speak about this.
So this one here, obviously, they didn't have computers in that time. So this animal would have been done by hand.
Yes.
And by hand means it would have been drawn.
Yes.
So does that mean drawing creatures for printing on T-shirts or fabric bags or?
Can we move forward, and then until I finish the painting, and then you can, and you will find all the answers.
Okay.
By the way, the majority of scholars mention that the hadith of prohibition of painting is related to things that are carved and will have shadow, and added the paints that are hanged on walls. So these are the three things: carved and have shadows. Things that don't have shadow, which are flat, are outside the context of, you know, who are the most punished in the Day of Judgment? Are those who photographers, musawwirun. Musawwirun in Arabic, it's photographers literally in English. The hadith narrated Aisha, al-Mu'mineen, when the apostle of Allah arrived after the expedition of Tabuk or Khaybar, the narrator is doubtful. The drought raised an end of a curtain which was hung in front of her storeroom, revealing some dolls which belonged to her. He asked, "What is this?" She replied, "My dolls." Among them he saw a horse with wings made of rags, and asked, "What is this?" "See among them." She replied, "A horse." He asked, "What is that it has on it?" She replied, "Two wings." He asked, "A horse with two wings?" She replied, "Have you not heard that Solomon had horses with wings?" She said, thereupon the Prophet ﷺ laughed so heartily that I could see his molar teeth. So status that she is playing with, which is a horse with wings, and so on. So we will speak about all of this as well. I think a couple of more hadiths, and then we go into the details. Narrated Aisha, "I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's apostle used to enter my dwelling place, they used to hide themselves, but the Prophet ﷺ would call them to join and play with me." So the Prophet ﷺ did not prohibit them to play with the dolls that Aisha used to play with. Narrated Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, "Those who make these images, suwar, will be punished on the day of resurrection, and it will be said to them, make alive what you have created. Put the soul in what you have created." So that's the concept. The concept. These are the hadith that are prohibiting anything related to making images, let's call it, but it's not actually making images. In all of this, for example, this hadith, the scholars agreed that what is meant for carving things that have shadow. So, and they are creatures that usually they have souls. So, Aisha radiallahu anha reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came back from a journey, and I had screened my door with a curtain having images of winged horses on it. So Aisha had a curtain on the door with winged horses on that. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded me to remove them, so I pulled them down. This is the wording narrated by Muslim. And in another narration, she ripped them two halves and kept them in the house. And the Prophet ﷺ did not say to her anything. So meaning that these are not actually something that should be treated harshly. The Prophet ﷺ just commanded her, she put them down, she ripped it into two halves, and she used the actual curtains that were having these photos.
And it was because they were hanging up, that was a concern, not so much.
Here is the conditions. So, to have a paint, I'm not speaking about photos now. I'm speaking someone painted a creature that has a soul. There are conditions for it to be permissible. Number one, it's small, not the actual size of the creature. Okay? Number two, it's not hanged on the wall, because the prohibition came because Aisha was hanging it. So the prohibition came because of the hanging. Number three, it has no shadow, meaning that it's not carved. So we are speaking about 2D, no issues. 3D, sculpturing, there is the issue comes, and we will speak about the sculpturing and making statues. And even at that, there are some things that we will learn today, inshallah, about. So all the hadiths of photo making are for carving. And added to it, paints that are compared with the creation of Allah. That's why Allah will ask them to blow the soul in them. So meaning that any painting that someone painted for a creature that is big in the size of the creature, and he is like looking at it with admiration, with like he's very amazed with it, that can be actually from the type that the Prophet ﷺ said he will be asked to blow the soul in. So the concept here is that the person feels that he created something. He created the creature. But if the person did not feel, then that is outside the prohibition area. If the person just painted a paint and it contains some human beings that are small, and you know how the paints will be just normal, then that is not going to be prohibited, because it comes under the hadith that it's a small piece in the cloth, small piece of painting within the big cloth. Any photo that is big and respected has the point of comparing with the creation of Allah. Sometimes actually a photographer might enter into there, although it's a photograph, and photographs are not haram, they are permissible. But if he took a photograph of a human being in a way that it's big and he liked it, he hanged it on the wall, and every time he's looking at it and he felt that he has done something, that can be actually part of the problem. And at that stage you can say that this is not permissible. But if it is just normal photographing, someone who is a photographer and he took a photograph of someone and you are just keeping it in the drawer or even putting it on the wall, but it's not, you are always looking at it and just admiring the work that you have done. So the concept is Allah Azza wa Jal will say to these people, blow the soul inside it. Why? Because they compared themselves with Allah in the matter of creation. So the scholars have said that the point of prohibition is that point, which is the point of comparing themselves with Allah in creating some creatures. Yes?
What about if a photographer takes a photo of a baby or a person and it's very good scenery, but they realize that this is a creation of Allah, they say, "MashaAllah, look at the mountains, look at this person standing behind the mountains." So they realize they're not putting themselves in front of Allah, but they're appreciating their talent. They're saying, "Alhamdulillah, like this is a
Now, is it appreciating their talent?
the talent Allah has given them."
Okay, there is no harm with that, so long as they are not feeling that they have made something compared to the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's the point, and that's why in the Day of Judgment Allah will ask them to blow the soul inside it. And that's why all the scholars agreed that any paint, even if it's permissible, and the person felt that he has done something comparable with the creation of Allah, it's haram straight away. And even if it's just a 2D, even if it's a graphic design, and he felt that he has created something, then for a creature that has a soul, then he will be asked to blow the soul in, if he is really admiring and thinking that he has done something comparable to the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. The hadith came to prohibit painting on the cloth. Thus, painting on paper is not included in the prohibition. So if we look at the hadith, everything is just related to the cloth that was hung on the door of the house.
What if it's cut out stickers?
Yeah, no problems. No problem. It's outside. We will speak about
Is there stickers that get put on walls or on cars or something?
no problems. So again, the hadith gives us 3 conditions to apply with. Is that it's not the same size if it's painting. We are speaking about painting. We are not speaking about photographing. We are speaking about painting. If it's not the same size as the human, for example, a human, you are drawing him in an A4 paper. No problems. It's a small paint.
Whether it's drawn by hand or drawn on computer?
Nothing.
Or cartoon,
Nothing. Because it comes under the portion of the hadith that it's a portion within the cloth.
Okay.
It's a print in the cloth.
With eyes, without eyes.
With eyes, without eyes, full. So long as there is nothing inside the heart that he feels that he has done something comparable to the creation of Allah. Okay? Number 2, it's not hanged. So it's small, and if it's big, it's not hanged on the wall that people are seeing, because the Prophet ﷺ came and it was hanged.
Okay.
So if it was just tidy up and somewhere put, nothing is going to happen to that.
So if it is drawn on a poster and it's hung with the educational purpose,
No problems with that.
no problem.
Yeah.
Even if it's hung.
Yeah. And number 3, no shadow, meaning that's not a 3D carved piece. So remember all of this. And of course, the condition that there is nothing in the heart that I am feeling that I have done something comparable to the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal.
I'm going to get asked, forgive me.
Yeah.
Like the graphic design. He's going to
Yeah.
ask lots of questions.
There is a graphic designing and 3D animation coming.
Okay, got it.
Most of the scholars allowed having a big photo if a part of the body is cut, that the life will not complete without it. So if you look at, this is agreeable between all the scholars. So if someone, for example, sat down on the chair and someone painted the upper half, of course the person will not live without the lower half, and even if it is big and hung on the wall, there is no issues with that. And all the scholars agree on that. That's why some of the scholars, they say to you, cut it or cut this or cut that, and we will speak about this concept of cutting the photo actually. What about cartoon movies? If they are because cartoon movies are all paintings, but they are flat. There is no shadow.
So the effect is 3D, but actually it's flat.
It's flat. Even the 3D animation, it's actually flat. So there is no shadow for them, there is no carving, and it's not comparable with the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. So cartoon movies, if they are to pass a good idea and doesn't contradict any of the rulings of Islam, no problem, as they are flat paints. So we need to understand that point of flat paint. So there is no shadow. For the video recording, we will come to the movies and plays. Of course, if you are video recording anyone, there's no harm with that. You are not creating any creature, or you are not making any new thing. Copying and watching these cartoon movies are permissible, and everything related to the cartoon movies is permissible, so long as there is nothing inside it that is contradicting Islam. And even if there is something contradicting Islam inside it, and you are pointing to your kids about it and educating them about it, and they are watching it and you are watching it in order to educate them about the problems, there is no harm with that.
Just a question based on this. It links also to the one thing you mentioned before. What if you create a character for the purpose of making it famous and loved by children, so they can...
Using unrealistic creatures in the cartoon, you are always impatient. So sometimes people will just, from their own mind, create their own creature who is not existing. Unrealistic is not a problem in Islam, because it's not a creature. It's not something that is existing and you are comparing yourself with Allah Azza wa Jal. So creating that sort of, what do you call it? Icon, whatever, then that's permissible in Islam.
And what if it is like a boy or a girl?
Yeah, no problem, so long as it's not a full creature, because a full creature that was created by Allah Azza wa Jal, okay? It's something that is unrealistic, for example, a creature or something.
Like you've got, for example, you got Zaki. You've also got like Omar and Hannah. And in Malaysia and Indonesia, they're famous.
Yeah, there's no harm with that.
So to create these kind of iconic...
No harm with that. Why? 2D, flat, no shadow, small.
And you can make them into toys.
And if you make them into toys, now comes the other point. Are you respecting them or you are humiliating them?
It's something for kids to play with and take them.
So you look at them, the kids will throw them, kick them with their feet, it's thrown everywhere. So there is no respect for these. When there is no respect for these, then there is no harm with these. These are just toys to be played with. I will add something that will strike you a little bit. Caricature. And painting caricatures is of course permissible, so long as the person is not mocking and ridiculing Muslims and so on. So if he is just doing this for the purpose of education and for the purpose of highlighting some problems, then there is no problem. No problem in painting any plants or insane things, as the hadith is related only to things that have souls. So someone is painting the nature, the rocks, someone will say these are the creation of Allah. Yeah, no problem. They don't have soul. So all the hadith is just directed at what has soul in it. 3D painting, no problem in it, as it has the same ruling as the 2D paint. It's a flat surface. So all of these graphic designing and animation, 3D animation, are 100% permissible because it's flat, it's small size. Sometimes it's creatures that do not exist. They are man-made or created, initiated creatures that don't exist and they are not in the size of the normal creatures. And so it's all, and it's not, people are not admiring them or worshipping them or looking at them highly. So all of these are things that rulings we need or conditions we need to look at in any of this. Someone created a 3D model and he started feeling that he created something. That's the problem. But he just created it and continue for the purpose of just benefiting the people, no problem. Graphic designing and 3D animation follows the same rules, as it is not big, no shadow, it's not meant to simulate the creation of Allah. Painting creatures that have souls on the carpets, curtains, and covers is not a problem. So you have some curtains with some birds with some whatever,
Or blankets.
or blankets, or for example, you have the carpet, and it has some, for example, painted or whatever creatures. So can you tell me you are actually respecting these creatures on the carpet? You are walking on them. You are stepping on them. So that concept is being removed. So you are not admiring the creation of things on that carpet.
Even if you pray on that carpet.
Even if you pray on that carpet, no problem.
So long as they're not distracting you.
So long as it doesn't distract. So, if it is not big, then it's a matter of difference in opinion, as it's being humiliated and not respected. So if it's big, you are speaking about, for example, a curtain, and that curtain has a big, for example, horse, that's the size of the horse, then we are going to enter some question marks. If it is a photo, we are going to think about whether I am respecting it or not respecting it. If it's humiliated, then there is no problem. Sometimes people will write the Quran verses in the shape of a bird or the shape of something. There is no harm with that, so long as it's respected, because these are Quran verses. So, the summary for the paints: 2D, flat, not respected. The person does not feel that he has done something to compare with Allah's creation. There is no harm, because it will not have shadow, and it's just a piece of print in a cloth, so there is no harm in that. Yeah.
What about if you had a real size, like human figure, maybe like at the same height, same face?
So this is 3D.
Yeah.
This will come to the sculpturing. This will come.
You're gonna eat it.
Yeah, going to eat it. It's humiliated anyway.
Respecting it.
Yeah.
So like, for example, the wax museum.
We will come to the wax museum.
Inshallah.
So we'll cover it, inshallah.
So just on the point of cartoons, I don't understand how you're saying the 2D, because the actual 3D, like it's got its point.
As in like Lion King, the original one, and then Toy Story. So there's 2D and 3D animation, 3D animation, correct?
It's not actual 3D. It's visual 3D.
It's on the screen.
It's on the screen. It doesn't, if you bring it out, it doesn't have a shadow. That's why the hadith of making or creating images is referring to sculpturing, creating something that will have a shadow. So what you are seeing, even in the 3D animation, they will put shadow for it. But it's part of the animation, it's all 2D. But the vision will see it as 3D.
What about mannequins at shops? They have a mannequin on.
We'll come to all of this, inshallah. All of these are going to come in our, because this is part of what we see in our daily life. So don't stress out when you see someone having a photo of someone on a t-shirt and coming and going with it or going to pray with it. Don't stress out. Just calm down, because even the Prophet ﷺ allowed things with sole to be on clothes if it's just a small size, even if it's full. Okay? So sometimes actually our ignorance in some of the rulings of Islam will make things worse when we are dealing with people who are coming to pray at the masjid or whatever. So we need to be calm with this. So cartoon, anything, there is no harm with that. Even painting, even if someone has painted, for example, a kid painted a bird or whatever, there is no harm. It's flat, it has no shadow, it's not 3D, and it's not carved, and nobody is going to respect it or admire it or think that he has done something apart from the creation of Allah. Okay? So you got the conditions for painting and graphic designing? You got them, Hussein? Okay. Looking at photos. Taking photos is not a problem at all. And it is not from the creation of humans, and is not meant to compare it to the creation of Allah, and it's just like looking in the mirror. So taking photos is permissible openly. What is prohibited in the photo making is carving from rocks and clay and wood, engraving and texturing. This is the hadith. So the hadith are coming from here. So if I'm carving something from rocks or clay or wood, then that's coming into the prohibition. Yes?
How about nowadays they call bamboo
Fruits. No problems. There is no soul in these fruits. So the concept here, if someone is carving something from rocks, clay or wood, or engraving something that is a creature that has a soul, or texture, because the hadith is referring to all of this.
So it doesn't have to be like a 3D. As an example, say you got like a koala that's a 3D keyring, right? And then there's a keyring that's flat, but it's got a koala engraved in it. So it's like 1 mil.
Ya Habibi, if you have a koala like this and you are putting it on your table in the house, there is no harm in it. Okay? You are putting it out of, for example, you are a design or a decoration or whatever, there is no harm of it. Remember the hadith speaks about the size. Because it's a small size, it's not comparable. That's why the scholars applied the size even on the carved things or on the models. So it's acceptable to have these small things. Like sometimes you will have the car chain, and you will have something in the car chain that is a 3D. It's small, a bear or something. Any other things are recently called photo making, but not meant in the hadith. So photographing, the hadith mentioned photographers. It's not the photographers that we know nowadays, because the terminology of photographers nowadays is different than the terminology at that time. At that time, there was no one with a camera and doing photographing. So some people who took it literally, they asked him, what are you doing? Photos. So the hadith speaks about photos. Well, who are you, a photographer? So the hadith is speaking about the photographer. So they applied. No, it's different. Because there was nothing called photographer at that time, and nothing called photos that we know nowadays. So the whole idea is to compare the photo that was made with the creation of Allah. So at this stage, as we said, even if someone took a big photo and he admired and he put it in a big frame with the big size of a human being and was hanged on the wall and all of the time looking at it, that gets into the prohibition. Okay? So all of these need to be in the mind all the time. So being a photographer by profession and earn money from that is permissible, as the act itself is permissible. So someone is photographer, no problem with that. Taking photo and keeping them for the memory, no problem. Even putting them on the wall is not prohibited, so long as you are taking a small photo, putting it on the desk, behind the bed, whatever, no problem, so long as it's not big and you are not admiring it and you are not feeling that you have done something. So it's not under the hadith of the angels will not enter a house that has a photo in it. Because the photo that or the hadith, as we said, it's related to engraving, texturing, and 3D. That's the hadith related to.
Full size.
Full size. Someone will say, okay, can I look at a photo of someone if I, for example, want to get married and they gave me a photo of someone? Of course, there is no harm of looking at a photo of a woman for the purpose of marriage. Now let's go to sculpturing. You want anything about photographing?
It's not about photography. It's about if you're looking at someone with the intention of marriage.
Yeah.
I heard these things about what's allowed to show.
Yeah.
But this is not your topic tonight. But if you want,
it's not my topic.
Yeah, you can leave it for later.
For now, keep it at the face and the hands.
What if I had a little small koala this big?
Yeah, no problems. sculpturing and creating status. For sculpturings, there are two reasons why sculpturing is haram.
Sorry, sculpting.
Sculpting.
Yes.
So there is nothing called sculpturing.
The sculpting, the sculpture.
Yeah.
So this is sculpting.
Yeah.
So we replace with sculpting. Okay, so sculpting. For sculpting, there are two reasons why sculpting is haram. Number one, comparing to the creation of Allah, and number two, magnification of the level of what has been sculpted. So someone is looking at what he has done as he's thinking that he has done something. He has created something. So these are the two reasons. So the heart feeling towards that it is at level, and comparing it to the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's why at the Ad and Hud and all of these, they used to have, for example, Nuh, they used to have status of people. They have been pious. They sculpted their models, and then they started worshipping them. So it's part of a series of looking at them high.
So as an example, if you go through some countries and they've got like a full 3D sculpture that's big of the president or king in the middle of the city.
It depends on how people look at that. If people throwing shoes on it, that's a different story. We'll speak about it. I'm just joking. Small sculptures are a matter of difference in opinion and are compared to the small paint. As we said, if someone has some small animals that he's putting them in the house as a decoration, then there is no harm in that. If it is meant to play with, like the dolls, then as well, no problem. So if someone just having even some big size, like sometimes they get these bears, the big bears, they sleep with them, they humiliate them, they hit them. That's not actually respecting any of these or looking high at any of these. Sulaiman alayhi salam, the Prophet, asked the jinn to make sculptures for him. You know that Sulaiman asked the jinn. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, يَعْمَلُونَ لَهُ مَا يَشَاءُ مِن مَحَارِبَ وَتَمَاثِيل. They will do for him, for the jinn, whatever he wants from maharib and tamathil. Tamathil are status. So actually the jinn used to make status to Prophet Sulaiman. But why did he ask for that? Actually he used to ask them to make status in the shape of soldiers. So in the battlefield he will be using them to threaten the enemies. So no, if there is nothing, as we know in the ruling in Islam, if the rule of those before us does not contradict any rule in Islam, then it will become a rule for us. So sculpting is in Islam prohibited for two reasons, then different reasons can be accommodated.
Does that mean
Hudhayfa bin al-Yaman, sorry, it's not Hudhayda, Hudhayfa bin al-Yaman had a ring from the booty of war with two birds carved on there. And he used to wear it as it is small and it's not a full 3D body of the birds. So no problems with that. He took it from the people before him.
So again, that's like what you mentioned before. It's either an engraving or a 3D embossing, but it's a small size. Ibn
Abbas had a brazier. Is it brazier?
Brazier.
Brazier. What's the brazier?
the one who works with bronze.
What's the brazier?
Siri, what's Brazil?
I know what's a brazier in Arabic.
What is it?
It's the it's like the place where you put the charcoal. Come, it's no problem. It's the
A portable heater consisting of a pan or stand for holding lightened coals.
yes.
So is it to
It's
intensify
like a charcoal container. So Ibn Abbas had a brazier with photos carved on it, and when he was asked, he said that aren't we putting it in fire? So we are burning it because it's carved on the sides of that container, some photos of animals, and he said he did not see anything wrong with that. So plates and utensils that contain some photos are permissible as they are flat, no shadow, small, and not for respect. So we can use these plates that contain these painting. Small statues for beauty in the house, for decoration, is as well accepted and can be lying under the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that it's a small print within the cloth. Statues that are not complete are not included in the prohibitions. So sometimes coming to those they are using them in the shops, for example. They usually don't have the head. No problems. They got the head and no arms. They got the head, the arms, and no legs. It's just the upper part of the body. All of these are not a problem. So when it comes to statues like these, they are not prohibited.
What if they are full body?
If they are full body, then there is a question mark, and it's better to actually remove something from that. Anyway, for the models and putting the clothing, you don't need the head. You can just put it without the head, and that will be sufficient for you. If the status is only a head and not to respect, it is not prohibited. So creating, for example, a cake of the head of Donald Trump, for example, or something like this, then it's not prohibited to create anything or carve anything, so long as the person is not respecting it or not looking high at it. Some of the statues are cut into two pieces in order to remove the prohibition. If you look at Saudi Arabia, for example, go to Saudi Arabia, you will find, for example, they will have a statue of a camel, but that camel is divided into two pieces. So they will leave just a piece, a gap between the two pieces, in order to go out of the hadith, that it's not a full body. And that's a way around things, that if you, for example, want to make a statue, for example, and put it in wherever you want, and you made it pieces next to each other, but if you look at it, you will understand what it is, but there is gaps between it, that going out of the prohibition in the hadith. So how about visiting the museum with all the for example, the wax museum, or any museum that has statues or whatever, animals or humans? What is the ruling? So it's not a problem, as the wives of the Prophet ﷺ mentioned to him what they saw in Abyssinia. They went and visited a church in Abyssinia when they migrated, and that church was called Maria Church, and there used to be lots of statues over there, and the Prophet ﷺ, he did not tell them not to visit them. So to visit these for wandering and reflecting, there is no harm. So the wives of the Prophet ﷺ visited these places And so in this case, how about I visit the cathedral of whatever with all of these statues? There is no problem with that. The Prophet ﷺ approved for his wives visiting the churches with all of these statues inside them. Okay? Does that answer the museum question?
So visiting them is no problem. Obviously, creating them
Is a problem.
So, but then I would see you would have two. Like, for example, for animals, obviously it's there so you can see what the animals are like. It's educational. But we say, for example, the Wax Museum, they're doing people in history. Like, for example, as an example, Hitler. So you go through this museum and they've got Hitler as though he's a human being and it's so real. But it's a wax. It's made from wax. So it's there to sort of show people. Either to not maybe glorify them, maybe to show them how they.
Well, I went to a museum that has all of these people in Malaysia, and I took a photo between Obama and Putin, and they were. You look at them, and you look how they made them. They made them in a way like you find the hair and the skin, and even on the skin you find the cells, and it's really detailed. Now that person who did that, if he did it and in his heart felt that he has done something comparable to the creation of Allah, it's prohibition straight away. In general, because it's in the size of the human, it's a shadow, it's carved, so it's applied, it's haram. For me to go and see and visit and look at how actually these people managed to do that, it's not a problem because the Prophet ﷺ allowed his wives to go and visit these places. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ entered to Kaaba during the makeup Umrah, what? No, makeup. What's the makeup? No, not makeup. Makeup the prayer. What the Umrah al-Qada. Umrah al-Qada. So, Umrah al-Qada, he entered Kaaba. There were 360 statues around the Kaaba. He did Umrah, he did Tawaf around the Kaaba, he prayed in the Kaaba, and the statues were there. Because he did not have authority at that time to do any change. But when he conquered Mecca after that and he had the authority, he removed everything.
Can I ask a question? Similar. Countries where they have statues of Buddha and whatnot, and they basically worship these things. If a Muslim bought a land that contains a statue like this, is he within his rights to destroy it? Because these days, there will be obviously a reaction in the world, and Muslims don't respect it.
Like what happened with ISIS in Iraq, and they went to the mountain. No, they started with the tank. They started with the rockets in order to knock down the mountain that had these statues. Although they are not complete statues.
So I'm curious about this. Is this something that it would be, a good deed to do that, or is this something that
the scholars nowadays, they answered about that, and they said it's not permissible to knock down things that were done from before us, like these things. Nowadays, people are not worshipping them, or nowadays they are just there for going as a historical place, and so on. So archaeology, it's not something that people are coming for worship. Okay, so there is no. But the problem comes when some countries like create these things for the people, and in that side of the country, that's the problem. Mummification is permissible, but we need to look after how are we killing the animal. If we are killing the animal in the halal way, slaughtering, then the animal is not najasa. Because if an animal died in a not slaughter way, then becomes a najasa. The whole animal becomes a najasa. So for example, you have a bird, any bird, pigeon, and you want to make a mummy of the pigeon. You slaughter it, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and then خلاص, it's not najasa. And then you did all of the procedure to make it just a mummy, no problems with that. You kept it in the house, no problem with that. It's not something that you created, it's the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. And you preserved that creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. Nasa'i narrated this hadith: whoever killed a bird out of play, without any valid reason, the bird will complain to Allah in the Day of Judgment that that person did not kill him for a benefit, but killed him for a play.
So hunting just for fun.
Hunting just for fun is not permissible in Islam. Hunting for
Getting the bird and cooking it or eating
or even making it a mummy, not a problem. To put it inside the house, not a problem. Okay? So we stop at this. If there is any question, I think I came to an end for part 1. We haven't finished all the parts. We have lots of stuff still coming in the art, but this is part 1 of the art in Islam.
Just a specific question. If, say, for example, you know, the silhouette. A silhouette is basically just the outline drawing, like the puma on the puma thing. If, say, for example, it's of a child, so it's real sort of height, but it's just
No
on the
problems.
wall.
No problems, because you don't have eyes, you don't have nose, you don't have mouth, you don't have anything. So it's just wiped.
What about sometimes when you can buy costumes, like Kamudi the orphan?
Yeah.
And you can have that mascot.
I don't know any orphan that's that size though.
Someone jumps into it and walks around.
Yeah, no problems. Because number 1, this is not actually an actual creature that looks like this. And number 2, you are not worshipping it or magnifying it. And number 3, it's just
Teaching people good
yeah.
things.
So no harm with that. Okay.
What if it's unrealistic size? So we go up and down. Does that same thing apply?
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, if it's unrealistic size, for what purpose?
Like it's the same thing. If you say you have realistic size, that says photo and you can hang it.
It will depend on why you are hanging it on the wall. Are you hanging it on the wall because out of respect? Then no. Okay.
So really, generally, it's either for decoration purposes, like as an example, in a children's hospital, you have like a big fly or a big mosquito, like something big, whether it's a sculpture or something, but it's like really big, or if it's something educational.
Yes.
So, like a giraffe, if you want to check your height, like if there's like a big giraffe or something.
Yeah, no problem. There is no respect so long as it's been humiliated and not treated with respect. It gets
just like in a classroom setting, you get your students to draw a photo of a human being that's small and you hang it up. It's only going to be there for a couple of months and you're going to rip it down anyway.
Yes. So no problems with that. Okay. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.